Hi, this is Dr. Stephen Newhart with Science-Based Body, and this is the Economic Fitness Podcast channel. On this channel, we are going to provide you with ways to keep your body and mind in top peak physical condition in an environment of sedentary work environments. It is our perspective that blood flow is equal to cash flow, and if you cut off the blood flow, you cut off the cash flow. We hope you enjoy our information. Hi, this is Dr. Stephen Newhart, and this is the Economic Fitness Podcast. I have a great guest today, Dr. Kari Rollins. Dr. Rollins is a DO here in the Fort Worth area, and that is, I actually want to ask Dr. Rollins about the DO label because it was not, I don't know how many years I did not know what that actually meant. So I'd like you to explain a little bit of that to me to start off. And just a little bit of background. She's a yoga expert, which is amazing. As you all know about me, I love exercise. I love body movement. So a doctor that also loves body movement is really interesting to me. So if you wouldn't mind, Dr. Rollins, if you would just explain to me the DO real quick, just so that
Sure.
everybody can hear about that.
So I didn't know what a DO was either, except I didn't get into MD school. So my dad, when he was an optometrist, and when he went to optometry school, he stayed at with the osteopathic students. And so osteopathic medicine is also licensed the same as an MD.
Sure.
But our background is emphasizing the structural health, musculoskeletal health as an important factor in people's overall health. Mm-hmm. So when you look at people's what we call structural alignment,
Sure.
sort of like looking at a building, if the building structure isn't healthy, then it falls apart, and so do we. So we look a lot at emphasize the structural alignment. But we have the same license, we prescribe the same medicine, we use the same hospitals, so we're working side by side with MDs.
That is great. So, and I've actually had certifications myself in the kinesiology realm, where we talk about posture, alignment, and we look at some of the detriments, some of the pains that can be caused. So it's great to have that crossover with you. How did you actually get started in what was day one? What was the groundbreaking moment for your career to actually start moving you in or even with yoga?
Well, I yoga was kind of dropped in my lap. My dad had back pain, and I remember it so clearly because I remember them talking about Marilyn Monroe dying. So it had to be like 1960s, right in that time. But he had back pain, and he bought a book on yoga. And a doctor told him to go get a book on yoga. And so he read it, and I read it, and I loved it. And I fell in love with the exercises and started practicing them.
Sure.
And every time I went to a library, I ran over to the section that would have books on yoga and check them out. And it was my passion to study yoga, and I practiced meditation. And that's something I just did even through medical school. And where I lived in Kansas City, there really weren't yoga classes back then. So it was pretty much self-taught. Mm-hmm. I remember Lilius on Yoga TV. That was like 60s. So anyhow, and then when I got into osteopathic school, it was so beautiful because I thought, wow, I know yoga can do all these wonderful things for structural alignment, and I can bring this into my practice too. So it just was a great fit for me.
Yeah, great fit is maybe an understatement. It was almost like the path led to. So I have this, I don't know if this is an ignorant thought, but I feel like anything can be cured with exercise. I've always kind of been that way. How would you feel about that statement?
Well, I think it's our body and our mind.
Okay.
I think our mind has to be on board.
Okay.
There are people too who, they think in a way that's self-defeating. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to get the body on board if you don't have your mind on board. So I really think we need both.
What's a great way to get the mind on board to begin exercising?
Well, the first thing you have to do is start listening to what you're saying to yourself.
Okay.
Because we have this internal dialogue that most of the time we're not even conscious of it. Mm-hmm. But we're saying things that are self-defeating or limiting our choices, or, we spend most of our time out in this realm when we really need to spend equal time in the inner realm and listening to our dialogue and our breathing and where we're holding tension, some more self-aware. And it's only with that that I think you can start to change.
It seems as if the world is moving in a direction where everything's trying to pull our attention away from us.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I was discussing that with someone just the other day and realizing all those, he's just people like myself with maybe with social media a little bit, I'm going to say, I'm going to push it to the side.
Yeah.
I feel like it's trying to grab my attention instead of a time when I could be meditating and thinking about, as you said, internal cues, what's going on inside here. I'm focused on this and almost not, some are obsessing over what is going on with others. And maybe for a recommendation for even listeners, let's step away from that for a second.
Well, there's a very interesting analogy of the tree of life. Mm-hmm. The tree of life reflects our nervous system, but turned upside down. So in other words, the roots of the tree are actually in our brain that nourish us.
Okay.
And our arms and legs are the limbs, and the fruit of the tree is our senses. So what happens to a tree when you have too much fruit? It kills the tree, actually. It drains it. And so they say that's like people who have addictions. They're sensory. They want sensory stimulation to the point that it's exhausting to the nervous system and drains you. So we have to, like our roots are in our brain. We have to spend some time nourishing our higher consciousness and our and the things that make us who become who we want to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great analogy.
I've always found that when I exercise, I gain control of which we actually know is, in kinesiology, we know is true. You gain more control over your higher centers if you, sometimes it happens with strength training because you're trying to move so much weight and the commands coming down have to be pretty aggressive. It almost gives you some sort of a higher control over your body. But I find that after I exercise, I have this greater awareness of my surroundings and some might say with the universe. And that's interesting to me that I feel that, which is why I made the comment, can exercise heal everything? Because I believe for some reason that it can metabolize dirty toxins that we have. It can open sweat glands. It can do this, do that. A lot of the solutions that we say people need. But
the breath is the good go-between between the body and the mind. Mm-hmm. And so exercise, of course, works on that.
Sure.
It really changes our breathing patterns. Most people breathe like 16 breaths a minute, a 2-second inhale and a 2-second exhale, mm-hmm. which is pretty short. So when you learn to extend that, whether you're exercising or meditating, and develop breath control, then it gives you a lot better, you have control over your nervous system.
And I guess maybe even oxygen saturation, right? If we can fully saturate the body with oxygen, we know we need oxygen to survive. Yeah. We can fully saturate.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can improve there. That's incredibly insightful. I would actually love to talk to you sometime about the addiction, because we could probably go down quite a path with that. I am working to help bring. I believe addiction was caused by technology. If we weren't able to, let's take a cigarette or an alcohol or a sugar, if we weren't able to create those through the tools, we've made tools to create that mm-hmm. stuff, put it in the form of here, ingest this or inhale this or whatever. And so I'm working towards, looking for tools that we can use to help get people out of those addictive states.
Well, actually, in the theory of yoga, the highest glands in the brain, the pituitary and mm-hmm. pineal, secrete all of your endorphins. And when you learn, there's actually eye movements that and breath patterns that stimulate those glands that release all the endorphins.
Sure.
They give you the incredible visuals and euphoric feelings from whether it's a natural or a synthetic high. Those are the glands that are secreting a lot of your endorphins, and you can learn to access them.
And it's through breathing.
And eye movement. Those are the two parts of our body that are under conscious and unconscious control, and they give us conscious access to our autonomic nervous system. So eye movement therapy is used in PTSD and people with post-traumatic stress syndrome because it's so calming, but there are some really very, very interesting eye movements that, like if you imagine you're looking at the top of your head, that stimulates the pituitary and pineal gland. You can move your eyes like you're moving, like you imagine you have eyes in the back of your head. That creates another whole, like, completely different set of endorphins. You can look down like you're looking at your chin. So there's all these different, besides, just circling your eyes or, different movements. They all make you feel euphoric and but not like euphoric, ecstatic. It's like calm, beauty. Like you just, I'm content. Yeah. I have everything that I need.
Sure. I'm curious if during exercise, the breathing obviously the breathing rate is increasing. I wonder if that has something to do with the endorphin release that you're getting versus any increased blood flow, usage of calcium, sodium, potassium within the muscles that's occurring. Maybe it's the increase in the breathing, but I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of good questions we
have
to research, huh?
There are a lot. Well, I will tell you what, I learned more today than I have in a while, and it's almost like I just went back to school for a second. So thank you so much. I'd love to have you to talk to you again. Maybe we could go over some other topics, but thank you so much for your time, and thank you all out for listening out there.